Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm the King, and welcome back to the channel, to everything you need to know about flashlights. Recently, Dead by Daylight have changed flashlights yet again, so we're making yet another tutorial on how to use these flashlights. I'm striving to make this one of my best tutorials, so we don't need to continue making these unless changes are here yet again. So in this video, we're going to be breaking down a lot of things. First of all, we're going to be talking about the changes to the flashlights that are different from what you may have known prior. We're also going to be talking about the types of flashlights, along with the best add-ons and worst add-ons, how to save normally with a flashlight and the changes that have come with that, how to locker save, how to window or pallet save, and how to CJ tech. We'll also sprinkle in gameplay here and there to give you guys great examples. And before we go ahead and do that, I ask just one thing. If you find this video helpful or you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing down below, as we're so close to 100,000 subscribers, and it would mean the world to me if you did. With that being said, let's talk about the changes they've created to the flashlights. Now, yet again, behavior has changed the flashlights with no reason or no information of the flashlights being changed unless you used them, tested them out, and then realized that they were indeed changed. So what exactly are these changes that we're talking about? In previous versions of Dead by Daylight, it was pretty simple. You aim your flashlight, you see the beam, you blind the killer, and that is done. That is pretty much it. Over the past couple of months, they changed the orientation of where the beam actually occurs, but recently, a little bit more has been changed. The biggest change to the flashlights is that it now sways very crazily in any direction, no matter what you do. As shown in the gameplay in the background, the flashlights just sway by themselves, even if you're not moving your mouse whatsoever. This can cause it to be really difficult to get saves or to aim your flashlight in the proper place because the flashlight just sways around way too much. And the second change that they made with this is that you can no longer detect when you actually blind the killer. The only method of you knowing this is when you see that you achieve points for blinding the killer on the left-hand side. So you're kind of left in the dark. I'm not too sure why these changes were made or if this is intentional or a bug, but it makes something that was really hard to do and a finite amount of the community were able to do to something that's even going to be more difficult without a lot of practice and a lot of skill. I guess they're trying to make it more balanced on the killer side, but anyways, we're not here to debate that. We're here to talk about how to use these flashlights, how to get these saves, and how to utilize them properly. Before we even go ahead and start using these flashlights, we need to know about the different types of flashlights and what the best and worst add-ons are. And now that we know that flashlights sway a lot naturally, we need to revisit the old question of, do the rubber grips help with accuracy? So let's go ahead and take a look at it. The first thing I'm going to be focusing on are the grips. Does this affect the sway of the flashlight and how much it does? And taking a look at the gameplay and in my trials, I realized that it doesn't do much. You can run these leather grips that increase accuracy, and sadly, your flashlights still have so much sway compared to if they had no grips. I tried with both of the grips, I tried with one of the grips, and I tried with no grips, and the difference was pretty small. They definitely do, however, reduce the sway a tiny bit, but it's not enough for you to want to run them because it doesn't really make too much of a difference. As for the other add-ons, nothing really makes too much of a difference. The batteries are still good as they all add time, so this can be for the yellow, brown, or green version. And of course, the low amp filament is going to be amazing as it adds way more time to your flashlight. Remember to put the battery in first and then your low amp filament to get the maximum efficiency of use of your flashlight. If you don't do it in this order, what ends up happening is that you will basically be short-handing yourself with the amount of duration your flashlight is going to last. When it comes down to add-ons that are just alright and can help you in different situations, such as blinding at pallets or expanding the blind, that's going to be your odd bulb, your intense halogens, and your high-end sapphire lens. Everything else really doesn't make a difference, and you should just keep them in your back pocket. Maybe if crafting mode comes out, you can scrap them for something else. But all in all, the best add-ons to run are the batteries and the low amp filament. those are going to give you the maximum duration. Keep in mind that when it comes down to flashlight rarities, none of this matters. You can have a yellow, a green, or a purple. This is only going to add the amount of time. Even the event flashlights are just as the yellow flashlights. It makes no difference in any of these timings or anything like that. All flashlights are the same, and no add-ons nor perks will affect it. The only thing that add-ons and everything else will affect are the durability of the flashlights. These perks are streetwise, and some of the newer perks for Felix and the other characters. Now that we have all of the add-ons out of the way and what you should run on your flashlight, we can now go ahead and talk about how to get flashlight saves. Now, flashlight saves are definitely different from what they've been. So, simply put, we're going to start off with how to get a standard flashlight save. Upon aiming your flashlight, you're going to see very quickly that it's incredibly difficult to get the flashlight spot on. Normally, how flashlight saves work is that you turn your flashlight on, and once the killer has movement while they're carrying someone, you want to get that blind. You want to do this before they can move their head up and down to look away from the beam, as most good killers will do, so that way they'll have no opportunity in order to combat it if you have your timing down right. Maybe that's the reason Dead by Daylight made these changes, because they figured these killers don't have enough time to do anything, but being that flashlights are such a high skill cap, I don't see the reason why. Regardless, again, we're not here to debate about that. So, all you need to do is to try to get the flashlight beam on the center of the face. I tried this a lot, and sometimes I aimed too much to the left, sometimes I aimed too much to the right, and a lot of times it wasn't even my fault. The beam just goes in random directions. The best advice that I can give to you is always try to aim for the middle. You're gonna have to go into a game yourself and find out where the exact middle is so you know where on the screen you need to aim, and then just hope for the best, realistically. I learned that if you are closer, this helps so much more. The further away you are, the more sway your flashlight's gonna have, and the more difficult it's going to be to get these saves. The closer you are, and the more non-motion you are, if you're not moving around and running in to get a save, it becomes way easier. I've learned that if you are trying to run to the other side and quickly turn on the flashlight, chances are you're going to miss the face of the killer. So when attempting flashlight saves in your own games, you want to take your time, be stealthy, and get in the right place at the right time. Once you get that down, everything is pretty much straightforward from previous tutorials. You want to get it when the animation's hand is right next to their head, or if you're counting down by time, the time will be on screen right now for how long you need to wait until you turn that flashlight on. Again, I learned that if you aim more on the chest area when you're closer ahead, it makes this really easy to do. The further away you are, the more difficult it is to get these flashlight saves. So try to be as close as you can to reduce the sway and aim more for the chest so that way you can correct yourself if you make a mistake. Keep in mind too that a lot of the swing of the flashlights are also only visuals, meaning the beam will still work the same way. So if you see your flashlight swaying around when you're aiming in the right spot, but the beam is still reducing, do not move it and try correcting it. Let it be, and it will still work. Chances are it's just the animation that's looking different, but the flashlight itself is working properly. And that is pretty much how you get a normal flashlight save. Now let's talk about some more advanced things, such as a window or pallet save. Windows and pallet saves are the same exact timing. When the killer is grabbing someone from the pallet or from the window, you want to make sure that, again, their arm is right by their head, just like standard flashlight saves. If you do this too early, the killer will get blinded too early and it will not count. If you do it too late, the killer will have to motion and will be able to go away. Pallet and window saves are a little bit easier than normal saves as the killer is stuck in animation, and typically if they're in a window or if they're in a pallet, you have a nice frame to work with so you can aim and get really close without them doing anything, which makes these saves way easier than actual flashlight saves. The problem with this is, if you're attempting a save like this in a public game, you're going to have to be there at the right time. Obviously, we're in private games, so it's going to be much more difficult doing this in an actual public game unless you're tailing the survivor. Next on the list are locker saves. Locker saves are one of the harder saves to perform, but if you can master the timing, there's very little that a killer can do. You can do this at the sides of lockers, and some of them are easier than others, but all you need to do is, again, wait for the animation to complete of the locker grab, and once the killer has his arm right by his head and that locker is closing, you're going to want to beam that flashlight right on their face. Once you do that, even if the flashlight sways around, you'll still get the blind in time. Again, practice makes perfect. Go into a custom game, try it out, and as you can see in the background, that is how you do it. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, the last thing we have on our list is the CJ Tech. The CJ Tech is one of the more advanced strategies, probably the most advanced strategy of the flashlight. Simply put, the way this CJ Tech works is that if someone is downed in a pallet and you are looping around that pallet or the killer isn't picking them up, what you want to do is try to get the stun on the killer with the pallet. It's not required, but it definitely does help. And what you want to do is to bait the killer into breaking the pallet. So when they move up to break the pallet and you're on the other side, you want to vault at the same time that they're going to break the pallet. Because of this, what ends up happening is that the survivor is forcibly picked up rather than breaking, because the killer cannot break the pallet when you are vaulting it. So it forces them to pick them up when they don't want to. You simply revault and just quickly aim for their head once the animation is finished with them picking up. Don't do it ASAP because you will get the timing wrong. You have to wait about 1 second before you turn it on. Once you do that, you'll be able to get the flashlight save. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the CJ Tech. Again, one of the more harder techniques, but it is doable if everything is right. Because they are stuck in animation and you are looking very closely, it is a little bit easier to pull off CJ Techs, at least in my case. And again, practice is going to be perfect. And when you're in a public game, things like this are going to be really hard to achieve because everything needs to be correct. But those are the basics of what you need to do. And ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap it up for the flashlight tutorial. That shows you all the timings you need to know. I encourage you guys to watch this video back a couple of times to see where I start my flashlights and end my flashlights and the angles that I take. Remember, you also can do all flashlight saves in a 45-degree angle. Remember, you also cannot flashlight save over certain obstacles if it obscures your vision. You can, however, blind through windows, pallets, and small objects. Keep that all in mind when you're using your flashlights and trying to save your friends. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure you leave a like down below and share it with your friends because flashlights probably will get changed soon, so you want to learn them up before they do. I hope this video did help as well. If it did, please consider subscribing. As I said, we're so close to 100,000 subscribers. And as always, I'm the king. I tip my crown to you guys, and we'll see you in the fall.